Tony Martignetti, Nonprofit Radio, coverage of 18NTC. It's a nonprofit technology conference in New Orleans. We're at the Convention Center, and this kicks off day 3 of our coverage. Cracking like a 14-year-old. This interview is sponsored by Network for Good, not by the Penguins. It's actually sponsored by Network for Good, easy-to-use donor management and fundraising software for nonprofits. I'm joined by Penguin One, and Joshua Peskay, and Robin Jenkins. And Robin, show your penguin. For those who do not have the privilege of the video, Robin and Joshua both have blow-up penguins. They're probably about 3 feet tall with black feet and black beaks. And Joshua, who are these courtesy of?
These are courtesy of Soapbox Engage. They have a booth entirely filled with these giant inflatable penguins and have been doing that for the last 10 years. Started when there was a Linux Day preceding the conference that they brought the penguins for.
Okay. So the penguins are not going to be able to join us. We do have enough headsets. You see Joshua put a headset on his.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna
let him go?
Yeah, we're gonna let that go.
Bye-bye, penguin.
You're beating the heck out of my headset. It's all stretched out now.
There you go. Sorry.
Penguins have a fat head.
All right.
Amy can take that for you.
Sorry
Thank you,
that.
Amy. No. Don't worry about that.
All right.
We'll just leave this here. Okay. Penguin Madness on the 3rd day of NTC. Thank you to Soapbox. Who is it?
Soapbox Engage.
Soapbox Engage. Thank you very much for that.
Really nice folks.
Joshua Peskay is Vice President of RoundTable Technology, and Robin Jenkins is Chief Financial and Operating Officer at the HOPE program. And your seminar topic is Unmet Expectations, an intervention between IT and nonprofit leadership. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yep.
We
Okay,
also
I do
had
have this
one
right. Yeah.
yesterday. We did another session yesterday on
right,
strategic tech planning.
Yeah, now you're complicating the interview.
Oh,
No,
my problem.
Today we're talking about bringing Penguins, IT, and management together.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah, can do.
Well, we can multitask. So.
You can't. No. We got to be single focus.
All right.
Like direct mail, the best direct mail. single purpose.
Yes.
That's what nonprofit radio is. Okay. So let's start with you, Robin.
Mm-hmm.
What's the problem between management and IT? Why do we need this session?
Well, sometimes they can talk past each other with different languages, and so making sure that we can converse in a common language helps us to get to our end goals.
Yeah, and Joshua, what's the implication if we're talking across each other?
Well, I think that technology people in particular are guilty of not thinking of communications as a really critical part of their job. And one main component of the session is to make sure that it is. Yeah, it is an absolutely critical part of their job. And when they fail to communicate effectively to executives about technology, then the organization's needs are ultimately unmet. That's the unmet expectation in the title.
Okay. So, Robin, I understand. So, Robin, you're the leader.
Yes.
You're in the leadership strata of this organization.
Correct.
And Joshua is the vice president of technology and what? Technology and
technology strategy.
Okay, so
RoundTable.
you're the tech guy. Robin's the leadership.
So he's actually our vendor. So we actually have a chance to practice in real time.
Okay, you work
improving
together.
communications.
Okay, you work together.
Yeah.
Let's see. You mentioned something. Well, no, we'll get to that about offers of children and IT skills. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
How do we start? I mean, everybody needs to come to the center. In a common language, right? I mean, IT has got their technical language. They tend to be very graphical, maybe. Leadership, maybe not so much interested in the graphics. Is that a part of it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was going to say in the session, we're actually encouraging people. There's something in marketing that's called a buyer persona, where a marketer actually develops an overall picture of the person that they're attempting to sell to or to communicate with.
What do they read? What do they listen to?
Exactly. You're familiar with that.
Yeah.
So
we're actually user personas, donor personas. Yeah.
We're giving them a template to develop an executive persona and encouraging people to actually create one and then look at that when they're thinking about communicating with executives around important strategic technology initiatives, right?
But is it only the tech people who have to come to leadership? Shouldn't leadership be coming down? That's not right, but coming.
Reaching across the aisle,
moving their circle toward the IT circle, so that there's common space. There's a common elliptical between the two circles?
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
So
That's
that's
not all on IT.
So that's how I take my role, is being able to straddle both groups and making sure that leadership is held accountable for how they communicate and what they need.
Okay, so they are accountable as well.
Yes.
All right. So should we start with our leadership persona? Is that a good place to develop?
can,
Are we
yeah,
going to develop
yeah.
a persona together?
We could, yeah. We
Is
can
that an
even give you the
exercise?
visual
Is that an
at some
exercise?
point. You can include it in the thing. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
you
yeah,
can give me a link to it, or
Yeah, yeah.
when we're shooting video, we can. Oh, you don't have the visual with you.
I have it on my phone, but it'd be a little
Yeah,
small.
it'd be a little small.
Yeah,
Okay,
zoom it
well,
in.
it's
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
It's
If
a
you-
small persona.
If you had something penguin size,
I do not have anything
all
penguin
right.
size, unfortunately.
It's a small
so-
persona, but it's a big personality.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly,
All right,
exactly.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we start now? The persona is different for every organization, right? I mean, leaders.
Different for every
Yes.
person in every
Every
organization.
person,
Yep,
yeah,
yep,
right.
yep.
Yeah.
So, but we're trying to reach to is it the C-suite
Exactly.
or in
Or
a-
the people who spend the money, who can be sponsors, who can be champions.
Okay.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
a small
yeah.
org, it might only be the executive director.
Correct.
I mean, we
Yeah,
could be
yeah.
talking a lot of. I mean, our 12,000 listeners are small and mid-sized shops. Some of them have 2 and 3 people.
Right.
So it may
right,
just
right.
be a fundraiser, executive director,
Yes.
and maybe a marketing person, marketing
Yeah.
communications. All right.
I think these
So-
skills, though, in this workshop are incredibly useful for anyone who's communicating with someone who has a different perspective from themselves, which is essentially everybody.
Oh,
Right?
okay,
Because it's really
not-
not more complicated. The fact that they're executives is just part of the session title. Ultimately, it's about how do I, who has one perspective, communicate effectively with someone else who has a different perspective about a common need that we have but don't think we have.
Okay. Fair enough. So it's not only IT and management. Let's see. Amy, you have those. Okay, the Penguins are local. We're going to call on them later on. I told you this is going to be.
Yeah.
This is improvised.
Penguins, by the way, incredibly effective communicators. I mean, it's
Are
little
they?
known.
Are they?
They're-
It is
yeah,
little-
yeah,
it is
yeah,
little
I
known.
mean,
All right,
well,
all
they have to find each other, right, in a sea of penguins
Right.
where
Oh,
they
that-
all look the same.
What find
right?
each other? Oh,
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
to find individual penguins.
You've never seen like
in the
March
sea
of the
Pen-
Penguins
Yes,
and all the
right,
thing with
yes.
the guy, the
Okay,
female
okay.
penguin
I-
comes back with the fish. She's got to find like her
Yes,
children
her-
and her
she's gotta-
husband
right,
in
right,
like
right.
a million penguins that all look the same. Like, how do you do that?
All right, we're going to call on
They
the
do it
Penguins
through
again.
communication.
All right,
They
all
have
right.
unique calls that are very it's very effective.
Why don't we just create a penguin persona?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That
it's
would
got
be
the
good.
alliteration.
Likes
and,
fish,
okay.
really big fan of fish,
Yes,
cold
right.
weather,
Field and Stream- Field and
sliding
Stream-
on belly.
Field and Stream magazine reader, magazine subscriber, like water parks. They love the slides in water
Oh
parks.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Let's stick with our
Dislikes polar bears.
Okay.
Sharks.
All right. This is turning into Joshua Peskay nonprofit radio. So watch it, or I'm shutting off
All
the
right,
mic.
sorry.
All right. I'll put the penguin in your seat, and you're out. The penguin talks a lot less than you do. And Robin and I will continue. All right. Okay. Let's build our C-suite persona. How do we start with this exercise?
So if I think of actual examples in my own organization, so I have a staff member who is very open and eager for change, but doesn't always understand how that can impact their lives. So I have to make the tool that we're thinking about implementing real to this person. How will it
Okay.
change? So I ask them questions, what do you do, and how would this tool improve your work efficiency, your understanding, communicating with others, getting things done more quickly. So that's how I begin to approach it.
Okay. And who is it that's asking these questions?
I'm asking the questions of the staff person.
Of the IT person?
No, of the just not even IT. Someone who has either is averse to IT or someone who doesn't have much experience with IT.
Okay. So we're going a little broader than just IT. Okay. Okay. Good. By the way, the penguin is also better dressed than you. that color blue is not becoming to you at all.
Really?
No, you
Oh
can't.
man, it's getting like this is
No.
insult radio now.
Yeah, no,
This is
no,
hot.
no.
This is
Well,
like
it's harsh. It's
Howard
harsh.
Stern was nicer to me actually.
Yeah. You've been on Howard Stern so many times. Okay. And then what do we do with the answers to these questions?
Right. So then I translate them to RoundTable or to Joshua. I say, these are the people that I have. Then how can we make sure that we can communicate or pitch the proposal properly in a way that they can understand it and approve it? I mean, at the end goal, my goal is to get it approved. So how do I get to that place?
Okay, Joshua, and then what are you doing with this information that Robin's giving you?
I'm really helping to make sure that we're understanding not only what problems the organization has, but what challenges the executives have that we need to understand and communicate about how we're going to overcome. A lot of executives may be pressed by either they are intimidated by the technology that might be changing and they might not want to talk about that with other staff, but that can be a block for them, or they have other pressing priorities that aren't technology related and don't think this is really worth their time. So if we need their time and we need their buy-in, which usually we do,
Yeah.
understanding their
What
challenges
yes, okay.
is
this
critical to.
something I heard in an interview I did yesterday? Seems related. Come to me with a solution, not a problem. So you're suggesting not just coming to the leadership and the decision makers with what the issue is, but with a technology solution, but that also includes recognizing their needs and what their challenges are, not just the challenges that you've identified.
I'll put it really succinctly. I shouldn't come to, if you're the executive, Tony, I shouldn't come, and I'm the solution, me and Robin
I like that.
I should
I
be
like that
asking
hypothetical.
you for the problem. You're the one who tells me the problem. We say, oh, great, here's a way that we think we can solve that. Then you say, here are some challenges that I have with that. Like, oh, if I have to learn a new piece of software, I'm not sure that I'm ready to do that. We say, oh, here's how we can help you overcome that challenge so that we can solve this problem for you. But if I don't know those things, and I don't ask.
Yeah, if you're not querying the leadership, you don't know what the troubles are.
So I can build on that a little bit with a specific example. So my executive director, she has a really special quality of asking a lot of questions. And so what I've learned is if I can think through what she's going to ask and what she's going to need, and I can get it down to 2 questions based on our conversation, then I know I've solved a lot of her problems. If I come out and she's still asking questions and I haven't predicted and I don't know very well what her issues are.
Okay, so you're putting thought into your into your whatever weekly meetings or your periodic meetings
or a proposal.
Your executive directors or proposals. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we move this persona along? I feel like we haven't developed this person yet.
Yeah, well, I could get you more specifics of the persona where when you're breaking it out, you're whoever your person is, right? You're kind of saying, here's a little bit about them. So this is the one we have in the session is Erin, the ED, is the first one, right? Just Erin, the executive director.
Erin or Erin?
E-R-I-N.
Okay.
Erin, and she's got an avatar of a unicorn, right? So she's our unicorn executive director, and she's super smart but super busy. She probably has personal demands on her life as well as professional demands, and she really wants her organization to thrive and be successful, and her staff to be well equipped with all the things they need.
We should hope so.
But
yes.
she
yes.
also has a lot of pressures around budget, around the board asking her to do things. So that's kind of like a snapshot of her, right? Then you have in the middle section, like here's the things that are most important to her that she's working on right now. Like these are the core
these
problems
are her top
that
3
she
priorities
has. Right. So
right
I'm
now?
fundraising.
Okay.
I'm trying to fundraise for 2019. The next one is I'm dealing with HR issues, right? And the next one, like these are so. From my perspective, like the IT guy, like I need to understand that like IT is not in her top 4 things. This is just not, So unless I can appeal to these problems and say the work that Robin and I are doing is going to help with these things or help you focus on them even more, I'm fighting a losing battle, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I see. Okay. And then was there another component to the 3 parts?
There
to
is,
this,
yeah. So the third part
persona?
then is so if you think of these like 3 columns, right? So we've got like this is about Erin. These are the problems and challenges she faces.
Yeah.
Then the last one is here in order to successfully communicate with Erin. Here are the things I'm going to do. Right, I'm going to ask her about the problems that she's facing in the organization.
Okay,
right?
and this is what Robin, this is what you try to anticipate.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm going to communicate the why, what, and how of everything we're doing very clearly. I'm going to prepare fully for conversations with her so I do not ever waste her time. Right? I'm going to anticipate questions she's going to ask about things we want to do. This is where Robin's incredible, right? So Robin, when we had a big meeting with her executive director, she reached out to me and said, we need to spend probably 4 hours making a slide deck, and here's all the questions I think she's going to have, right? So you take the time to do that. And it's, in my opinion, it's stuff we all, I think, know, but I think doing it regularly in a disciplined basis.
We're not being intentional about it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
Okay.
And
All
so
right.
and so that's
Right.
and so it's like a little one sheet thing you can just stick on your office, and now it's a reminder to you, like, okay, these are all the things I need to do before I go talk to Erin or send her an email or ask her for something, right? I need to understand these are her problems, and these are the things I need to do to communicate successfully.
Okay. And what about in terms of actual words? Like, I mean, your session description talked about language. Does it get down to that granular level, or words, actual words? How do we find the commonality in the words? Like avoiding avoiding technical jargon.
Right.
You help me.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be trying to
No, it's okay. No,
guess it. You tell me.
no, I think
Sorry.
you're right. It's sometimes even the number of words. Someone may not have enough time, so you have to really keep it succinct and short. I'd say there's a even bigger gap between fundraising and IT, where we need to translate it into words that funders will understand to help the development team to communicate in their proposals. So a couple of times we've had to go back multiple times to understand how to phrase something, even to the point where we have a specific budget of $25,000. That means I may only be able to order 4 laptops and not 5, because I really am above $25,000 with 5.
Yeah.
So there are boundaries that we have to follow and communicate and get down to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joshua, language? Anything you want to add about specific language?
A really specific example that we give in the session.
Yeah, we'll give it here too.
Don't
hold out on non-profit radio listeners.
I'm not going to.
I'll cut your mic again. You're the Penguin. I have offstage talent waiting.
I would never claim to be more effective than the Penguin at change management and executive communication.
All right.
One of the questions is, if you're expressing like, hey, I think we should go to Salesforce. This is another problem that comes up. The executive maybe reads something in the Times or maybe hears something from a board member and says, we should use Slack. Everybody else is using Slack, so we should use Slack. And a lot of IT people or folks like Robin who are operations are kind of like, is that really what we need to be doing right now? And the pushback on that with an executive can be challenging. So a specific phrase is, help me understand what problem we have at this organization that Slack is going to solve for us, right? And then follow-up question is, how does solving that problem help our organization? And it's a softer way of kind of, walking them back from an idea that might be a bit...
Something that came from a board member as a wild hair idea.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so that question, I always push people to come back to the question of, please tell me what problem we're trying to solve here. That's what I have to understand, and then only then can I communicate.
Whether Slack is the right resource, the right tool to do that.
Exactly.
Or maybe there isn't really a problem, or maybe there's a better way to solve it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's related to something you mentioned in your description, which is the board member child and nephew. I have a nephew who took a coding course.
Yep.
And I think he could help the organization with his computer science skill.
Right.
His newfound course certificate.
Right.
What do we do with this, Joshua?
Well, I'm going to sound really redundant, but it's the same. So help me understand what problem we have at this organization that recently graduated
she's gonna
programmer could be effectively applied to solving, right? If we can identify that, then in fact there may be an opportunity for that person to help us. But if we're a hammer looking for a nail and we're not a nail, it's going to hurt. And so...
Okay, Rob, go ahead, Rob.
Well, I was going to add to that. We actually had an example where we wanted to show a board member how much something costs. And what we folded into that was the cost of me spending time with that person who was volunteering. So then they see the true cost.
Oh, this is a real life example.
This is a real life example. And we showed them the true cost, and they were shocked. So I would say don't be afraid to show them under the hood so they truly understand the impact of what they're asking for.
Okay. Now, in your role as CFOO, do you get a lot of that, coming down from board members or maybe your executive director, sort of these ad hoc, I read this article type, or I heard about Slack type thing, we should be looking at this. There's a lot of that. Does a lot of that come to you?
So I want to give compliments to our board before I go any farther. So they're an amazing board. I really mean that. So no, we don't get too much, but when we do, that's where this example came in, where we really showed the true cost of personnel, time, training. If this person doesn't stay, if this person doesn't last long enough to actually get the work done, what does that cost?
Yeah.
So we have a good balance with our board, but we do want them to understand sometimes what their suggestions mean.
Institutional costs and including time.
Right,
yeah.
right. And what that's resulted in is, of course, because they fund us, then they understand they're going to have to raise that much more. But this other person, the way they responded was actually very helpful. They said, okay, you know what? Let me join the committee with you so I can dig in and understand how this works. And so now he's working with us.
Oh, you changed it into an opportunity.
That's right.
Yes,
yeah.
excellent.
And I'm going to, and picking up on that, can I Oh.
Yes, you may.
Okay.
But I appreciate you asking for consent. You have
like
it.
to kind of turn around to the other side of that.
Stay close to your mic.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Picking up on what Robin said, going back to this redundant idea of the problem. If the executive director came to me with that and said the board member want that, if I have a good, strong relationship and I'm okay having candid conversations, and we actually have some in our workshop on how to like develop resilience to having difficult conversations, I might ask the executive director, is the real problem here that we need to find something for this person to do to engage with the organization to satisfy this board member? If that's actually the problem we have to solve, then I will solve it, right?
Yeah.
But if that's not the problem, then maybe this isn't the right opportunity, right?
But let's be honest about what the problem is.
Exactly.
I can find something if that's
If
the
that's
real
what you're
problem.
asking me to do,
Okay.
and regardless of whether it benefits our organization, because it maybe on a macro level benefits, because this board member will be more generous in the future, will be happier.
Major donor, board member,
Exactly.
important insider
Yep.
to the organization.
Yep. And that's the perfect example of I may not be able to see that as an IT person. So if I'm not open to seeing it and don't know how to ask the questions, I'm hopeless.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you teased something. Maybe that's because it was in your other session, which I forbade you from bringing in.
Yes.
But you said pushback and difficult conversations.
No, that's
would
in
be,
this session.
Oh, that's this.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
good.
going to be in this
Okay.
session.
So we don't have to. All right. So I'm keeping my boundary. I'm enforcing that, and let's talk about that. So
Sure.
having that difficult conversation. Who wants to start?
So actually,
The topic is now pushing back when you're getting resistance. Is that it?
yes,
And
yeah.
doing it appropriately and.
Right. So Joshua can speak really well to this because we talked about this the other evening. But in my case, I think I'm very clear on where we need to end up, but open to changes in the path. And because I'm very clear on where we need to end up, it's not problematic when people will push back.
Okay.
So if you're not confident in where you think you need to go, then you question yourself if people push back on you. But as long as I'm clear on where I think we need to go, then it's much easier to have those hard conversations.
Okay. Okay. You're advocating for something that you really believe in.
That's good for the organization.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So how do we do it?
Well, essentially, I think people think they're either good or not good at having difficult conversations with people, and it's a skill that you can build like any other skill. And we give a couple examples. This will sound kind of out there, but the first example we give is something called the 10% challenge, where for a week you go, and this was not something I came up with. This is a guy named Noah Kagan who came up with this. And you go any retail transaction you have. I go to Starbucks to buy coffee. I ask for 10% off. And if they say, do you have a coupon? Do you have a discount code? I say, no, I would like you to give me a 10% discount because I just am asking and I'm hoping that you'll give it to me. And you're not pushy about it or anything. You just and you do that every time you buy something. You force yourself to do that every time for a week. And what you're doing is essentially like the equivalent of a push-up for having difficult conversations.
You're building the muscle.
Yeah, you're building the muscle for dealing with that discomfort around having maybe a difficult conversation, and there's other things you can do, and it allows you to maybe talk to your executive about something that you think they're not going to be very happy about, and say, you know what, this thing that we set up isn't going very well. Here's why it's not going well. Here's what I think we need to do to fix it, and have that very candidly, because our tendency is to overpromise and underdeliver constantly, because it's easier on an interpersonal level for me to promise you the world, and then once I'm not in the room with you and doing stuff, to just get it good enough and then hope that you don't notice that it's not really what I promised. And you want to do exactly the opposite. When I'm with you, I want to really calibrate expectations conservatively, even though you may not like it, right? And if I can get over that difficulty, that discomfort, and get really used to it, then I'm going to be much more effective at that.
Okay, that's excellent. Excellent. And what did you call it? The 10%?
The 10% challenge. Yeah,
10%
Noah
challenge.
Kagan,
Yeah,
Kagan, who did it. It's kind of it'll seem kind of cheesy because it's kind of in like what I refer to as the opto bro community. You know, like all the, you know,
hell-
like
what the heck is
you know, the Tim. I mean, with all due respect to this group, who I'm a huge fan of, and I suppose I should be a dev, you know, but they're like the kind of young .com guys who are like, here's how you optimize everything in your life. So it's like the young white venture capitalist crowd guy, almost exclusively male, who are like, here's how you optimize your fitness, your diet, your productivity, your everything to be like a super, you know, .com entrepreneur. So I refer
Our
to
goal
them,
in
I
life.
shorthand them as Optobros.
Isn't that what we all aspire to?
Right.
Yes,
No.
yes, exactly.
Okay. Let's see. We're gonna bring the penguins back. Amy. Oh, can we get the penguins? And I was so dull. What did I say? Penguin 1 and Penguin 2. No. This is Erin. Here's Erin.
Oh, this is Erin the ED.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is Erin the
This is
ED.
Erin the ED.
Erin the ED
I
is
won't
back.
put the headset back on her because
Oh, okay.
we're stretching it
Okay.
out, but we'll keep
Erin
her.
the ED and Garrett. We need
is
Robbins
next to
too.
it. Yours is
Garrett,
next
can
to
we broaden the frame, Garrett, to bring
Robin, can
bring
you
another
do
one in?
yours?
Oh, it's right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we need to, or we got everybody? No, I guess that'll do it, right? Okay.
Okay.
Now that you're showing the penguin's ass.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do that. Okay, there we go.
We don't have
Okay,
penguin butt on our
it's
video.
Erin and what do you want to
Oh,
name
this
yours?
will be.
Robin?
This is the other
What,
one. Is
Robin?
Cedric the CFO.
Oh,
So
Cedric.
that's our other.
Cedric, CFO. Yeah,
That's
all
our
right.
next.
All
Our
right,
next
both-
thing. Yeah.
Both very dapper in bow ties.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
all right. This is the panel. Erin and Cedric, and also Joshua Peskay, Vice President, RoundTable Technology, and also Robin Jenkins, CFOO, Chief Financial and Operating Officer at the HOPE program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
been a
That's
blast,
fun.
Tony.
Yeah.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you. Yeah,
Thank you.
This interview sponsored exclusively by Network for Good, easy to use donor management and fundraising software for nonprofits. Thank you so much for being with nonprofit radio coverage of 18 NTC.